We're here at the original Mighty Quinns restaurant on 2nd Avenue and 6th with one of the co-founders, owners, Misha Majid, and pitmaster chef Hugh Mangum.
Yes.
Great. And when did this establishment open? 1 or 2 years ago?
We opened in December of 2012.
Right.
So almost coming on 2 years.
So I thought I'd start with you. I'm a
Sure.
finance background and so forth. So how did you go from being hedge fund for JP Morgan to this?
Yeah, so I was actually still in the hedge fund industry when I became involved with Mighty Quinns. And I guess shortly thereafter, when we opened up the flagship here, just the confidence that this brand and the concept and the product was much more scalable than just one restaurant. So I think that was the opening of this place was the impetus to kind of step back from the hedge fund industry. I knew that for all of us to scale this, it would be more of a full-time commitment and not something that I could do on a part-time basis like I was at the time. So I left in, I believe it was March of 2013.
Oh, so you were sort of like an investor or silent partner and then went full-time?
I mean, the timing was fortunate in that we were in the process of starting a new fund. Okay. My old fund, we shut down. So I had time on my hands to I was full-time, but then the hedge fund kind of started up and I had to make a decision, which to focus.
When this space became available, we had already looked at a few spots, and we kind of latched onto this one. Me personally, my first apartment in New York was a block away. We tried to deal with the space as best as we could, given what we were given. And one thing that we were very set on was having the smoker visible in the dining room, so that people could actually see and authenticate what we were doing. Smokers here, we go through roughly 12,000 pounds of meat a week on the pit. And all the wood we have is in-house. So we use, it's all oak, a little bit of apple and cherry, but there's no electric or no gas element to the smoker. The only thing that's electric on it is the rotisserie, is powered by an electric hookup. But we only smoke with wood, so there's no cheating involved. We literally have someone in-house 24 hours a day. In the circumstance, we just...
What was that law? You couldn't use wood before?
From what I understand, is at a certain point, unless you were grandfathered in, you couldn't put anything new burning wood. They've since changed that with black iron flues and separate ventilation systems.
Basically, the smoker has to be a separate vent than the traditional.
The reason I ask is the North End Grill, when they opened 2 years ago, they have this authentic Spanish-style wood-burning grill. If you ever go there, you'll see it. And there was rumors like, how did they get permission to do that? But I guess the law changed.
What I think a lot of people have said to us, how'd you get permission? I think what most people don't understand is it's cost prohibitive, but it can be done. I mean, we spent a lot of money to run this flue all the way to the top of the roof, and that would be a detraction to a lot of people that wouldn't want to do it. Which is why
people understand barbecue will spot this as, oh, this is different.
Yeah, and I mean.
A lot of restaurants fail for financial mismanagement and so forth. Do you find that your background is helping you?
Absolutely, and I think the third partner who isn't here, he has a very deep operations background in the restaurant business, Chris Gormos, and I definitely come to the table with a financial background, and Hugh obviously is comes to the table with the food background. So I think having those three pillars kind of set us up for success.
It's been a perfect partnership.
How did you all meet? How did you find him, or vice versa?
We've actually known each other for a very long time. We're stepbrothers.
We're stepbrothers.
Yeah, so we both grew up in Los Angeles, and kind of 16 plus years later, kind of reunited out here when when he was doing Smorgasburg and.
So you got into the chefing business how?
I was before that I was a touring musician for a long time, and my father was all about food. And when he passed away, he left me a little bit of money, and kind of to bridge that connection with him that I didn't have anymore, and to kind of delve into something that I thought was similar in work ethic to music, being away for a long time, having long hours. I went to culinary school just because I loved it. I loved food and had no knowledge of what it was like to be a chef in a restaurant. I was one of those people 15 years ago that saw the Food Network and thought, oh, I could do that, and was very naive and got a crash course on what it was really like to work in restaurants. But ironically enough, I took to it and loved it, and I love the life, and I have a passion for it. And so 15 years ago, I went to FCI in New York, and I've been out here ever since.
What was this restaurant, Smorgasbord? What is this?
Well, Smorgasburg still is it's put on by the Brooklyn Flea. It's in Brooklyn and Williamsburg, and 12 years after cooking and doing duty in a lot of places, and I had been doing barbecue on my own. My cousin, through marriage, who actually does all of our woodwork here, a company called Withers and Grain, had tipped me off to do the Brooklyn Flea to try out for it because he thought I could sell pulled pork like it was my job. And I went out there and did a tasting, and they weren't allowing anyone to join the Brooklyn fleet at that point because they had already had like a guy doing brisket. But they were starting a new project called Smorgasburg, and they said, "Would you be interested? It's all food." And I jumped at the chance, and started doing that. And within a few weeks, I quit my day job, so to speak, and put all my energy into doing this as the only thing that mattered.
Right. So the brand was basically born doing these weekend markets in Brooklyn, and that was parlayed into this flagship location.
Interesting. Yeah, so many. The Saturday morning CBS show features up-and-coming chefs, and so many of them have a similar story. They came from an unusual background, and then found out they were really good at it. And yeah, so we talked about that already. What are some of the recognitions you received? So when you opened Zagat and ranked you best new restaurant, what are some of the other?
Yeah, we should talk about
Times,
the Game Changer one in March.
Which one was most important? What got you on the map?
Well, I mean, I'll go even prior to that. There was like a bunch of things that kind of lined, that all the ducks kind of went in a row. Before we even opened, I was asked to compete on Chopped.
Oh, okay.
And when that happened, we were all thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go do this. I better not lose in the first round. And we got very lucky, and I had a good day and won.
Okay.
Which was good from a press standpoint in and of itself. But then, like, we opened, things were good, and then the Game Changer happened. I believe it was March 6th, or March 9th, when the New York Times, Pete Wells reviewed us, and we'd expected a 25 and under review based on our price point, based on we're not a sit-down restaurant, we're not table service, we serve things on cardboard, or not cardboard, but compostable paper.
Right.
And it came out that we were the review, and he gave us 2.5 stars, which was unheard of for a restaurant doing what we do.
Right.
And that was the lid blew off.
So I would just say in a food market like New York City, where it's there, everyone's competing for that voice to be put on the map by a guy like Pete Wells in a publication like the New York Times. Like, it was the next day, it was kind of like the Game Changer. You saw it in the restaurant.
It reminds me of Parm, which is casual and so forth, but yeah, he got 2 stars also.
Yeah.
Kind of similar there. That's interesting. How did you choose barbecue as a genre? Because that's what you were doing.
Well, no, I mean, for me, I came out of culinary school and I was doing, fine dining, French influenced, Asian influenced. I'm very into all types of food, but barbecue was what I grew up with. My father was from Brazoria County, Texas. So in Los Angeles, even as a little kid, we had a pit in the backyard, and I saw that. And it was, again, my way of connecting with my father when he wasn't around was through barbecue. So when I bought my first house about 13 years ago, I bought my first offset pit smoker, had it shipped from Texas. And on all my days off, I would smoke. So this is, 10,000 hours, so to speak, the tipping point, or, it was that in the making. I had been doing this kind of on my own for a very long time. And when I finally took it to market, it had been something I'd been doing for a long time. So,
I don't know if you want to catch a shot of Bryson's basically slicing our most popular entree, which is our smoked brisket.
Try to deal with vendors that are local, but most of the local farms that are doing all natural, let's say grass-fed, which we don't do 100% grass-fed, we would wipe them out in a week based on our volume. They couldn't keep up with it. It's the same thing with the pork. I mean, we've tried getting stuff locally, and then within 2 weeks we're having supply and demand issues. So we've sourced out a couple of different breeds that we like, be it Berkshire, Duroc pork, and with the meat we use, obviously Angus, but it's all hormone-free, certified, naturally raised.
So back to more business strategy. So we're approaching you because you're moving into Battery Park City soon.
Absolutely.
Where else have you expanded? You also have another place in Greenwich Village? Or?
So we just opened a restaurant in New Jersey a few weeks back, which is our first, obviously, outside of New York City. We have under construction is Brookfield Place, which you know about, and then in the West Village, Greenwich Avenue and 7th Ave, which will open probably early summer.
Oh, so in the course of a few months, you have 3 new restaurants opening up.
Basically, yeah.
And right now, this is the only one right now?
The one in New Jersey is open.
Oh,
it's
it is
up and
open.
running. Yeah, and we're also joining the Brooklyn Fleet guys are putting together a project in Crown Heights called Bergen, and there's 4 food vendors there. We're also going to be opening up.
Now, the Battery Park City location is interesting because it's not a separate restaurant. It's part of 14 or so others, and how are you planning for that? How are you going to make sure your quality doesn't get lowered by someplace next to you?
Absolutely. Well, if you look at the lineup of Brookfield Place, they've really done a good job of kind of curating New York City. they're not necessarily chains, but they have more than one restaurant, and they all their food lends itself to fast casual. So basically a counter service style where things are put together freshly right there, and then taken away, which is the perfect match, obviously, for an office market like Brookfield Place. So I think that we're going to be tackling everything from making sure food quality is right to customer service the same way we do in this restaurant. It's just on a smaller scale.
It's also well diversified as far as the vendors there, the restaurants.
Yeah, I interviewed Ed Hogan, the man who chose who to bring in, and I was impressed by most of his decisions so far. Will you have to import some of the brisket that's smoked here? But you can't do full smoking over there?
No, basically the limitations there, we won't be able to smoke there, but we are going to be delivering food, as often as needed, whether it's daily, whether it's twice a day, from this location, which we smoke 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So we've already ramped up for that.
Right. We have basically like a full kitchen set up in the back, just minus the smoker.
All right. I like side dishes myself.
Well, as long as you don't mind getting dirty, we can head down that way.
Should I walk this way?
Yeah, right behind you, Bryson. So basically, all of the side dishes in the restaurant, most of them are family recipes that have been with me and/or that I've kind of tweaked a little bit. Starting with our sauce, in fact, was my father's table sauce from Texas. That when I met my wife, or met before she was my wife, her family's from North Carolina, so I wanted to kind of marry the two
That's
traditions.
a good question. Barbecues have different themes. Kansas theme or Carolina theme. What would you call yourself?
I would say that we're New York, to be honest with you, but if I had to say where my heritage or my lineage comes from, is Texas, but I don't say that we are Texas barbecue. I feel like we're just barbecue, and we cook from here, and if certain things remind people of home, whether it be Carolina or Texas or Kansas, then that's kind of for them to interpret. But for us, we're a New York brand, and I feel like New York's a melting pot, and we're kind of allowed to play with it. Yeah, we use edamame for our my play on a 3-bean salad, or our play on 3-bean salad is the edamame salad, which is edamame, sweet peas, sugar snaps, and some people kind of scratch their head at that. But the point is, it's lighter, it's fresh. I want people to focus on the meat and not get weighed down by eating. We're not trying to fill people up with cornbread. I'd rather fill people up with brisket and let them have some side foods that aren't going to weigh them down.
Well, chicken? Is it all beef?
We do chicken. We do beef, pork, chicken. We also do special. Everything is smoked. We do wings and we do half chickens, which chicken's like one of the best values of the menu because it's literally a half of a 3.5 pound. One round of smoking here, we literally smoke, like I said, 24 hours a day. So we'll go through on a Saturday, 120, 150 racks of ribs, and we can't fit that on that smoker in one shot because of all the brisket and other meats on there. So it'll be going all day long. So
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you.